Hey guys, thanks for checking out another HatchetCast episode. Today I'm going to be talking about a basic roadmap that you can follow if you don't have one already, about what type of skills you should be working on, as well as the type of gear you should have in your inventory to make you a well-rounded asset to your group. Before we get started, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Also, make sure you share this video with a friend or comment what type of equipment are you running below. I know that's a lot of data that people can get within our community as they see what type of kit is everybody running, and it helps them to make their research a little bit easier and make better purchasing decisions. So make sure you guys share that and also your experiences with different types of gear below. Guys, this is one I've been wanting to do for a while. It's not going to be very in-depth on the specific equipment itself. It's kind of a brief overview of all the different things that you should work on or should at least think about maybe adding to your inventory, so that way, depending on what type of mission set or what type of situation you're in, you have some flexibility. Before we get started, I do want to talk about a quick sponsor of the channel, and actually, I'm wearing one of their products right now, and that's Wetworks. Now, Wetworks, as you guys know, is always a sponsor of Barrel Hatchet content. This is what allows you guys to be able to watch this stuff for free, to be able to get this information for free. And they make all different types of nylon equipment. Their sole purpose is to outfit the prepared citizen and to make sure that you guys have top quality equipment. I'm actually wearing their plate carrier. This plate carrier is extremely comfortable. It does have soft armor on the cummerbund as well. They make all different types of things. Chest rigs, like I got their Pathfinder 7 chest rig here. They make different types of concealment options, plate carriers, all different types of things. So if you guys are looking at possibly purchasing a new plate carrier or chest rig, or even getting a concealment piece of kit, go check out Wetworks. You can use the discount code in the description of this video to save 10% on your next order. Special thanks to Wetworks for sponsoring this video. All right, guys, so I'm going to talk about brief skills and things that we should be working on, kind of give you a roadmap if you don't have one already. For some of you guys, this might just be, review. It's nothing cosmic. What kind of inspired it is actually I started playing Battlefield 6 with some of the other guys here in the community, and I was like, man, there's all these different loadouts, but despite what loadouts guys are running in the game, or even in the military, despite what type of loadout or what type of job you have, they always have a very specific selection of skills and equipment that everybody is given. And so I'm going to kind of use that as our base foundation to be able to talk about what the roadmap should look like for the prepared citizen. All right, as far as the one thing that everybody talks about, shooting. Obviously I teach firearms instruction. There's a lot of other great instructors out there as well. There's also a lot of other great instructors that teach tactics and those types of things that I think are really important. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But as far as your shooting capability, in my opinion, I think every prepared citizen should be able to engage target from 0 to 500 yards. One thing that you should always keep in mind is no matter what goal you set for yourself, set the bar a little bit higher than the standard, and that way you're going to overachieve that standard and put yourself ahead of your peers, or give yourself more of an advantage that your community can rely upon. So having that goal of being able to be capable with a rifle and pistol from 0 to 500 yards. Obviously the pistol is going to be covering everything that's shorter distance. Right here I have a 14.5 GPR. This is the Saber 15. There's testing currently being done on it. It's from Palmetto State Armory. Cold hammer forged FN barrel 1-in-7 twist. With your rifle setups and things of that nature, it should make you more effective and not limit you, right? I know it's really easy to kind of get into a position where we have so many different rifle selections to pull from. To be honest, just through the nature of being in the industry, I'm blessed with the opportunity to test all different types of things, but there are days, man, where I wish I could just have my one gun that I just run all the time. And, I do have that one rifle that I use for teaching, or if I'm gonna shoot a competition, I go to that one rifle. Same thing for the handgun, but always switching things up, man, it's not as advantageous as it seems down the road. I always encourage guys to find that one tool that you're gonna use that's gonna get you those hits from 0 to 500 and just stick with it. Just stick with that one thing. Put your money and your investments into that one tool to make it absolutely capable up to your standard and for what you need. Now on this rifle, whenever you're talking about being able to engage target from 0 to 500 yards, that should be something that you should look to achieve from daytime or nighttime. Doesn't matter what time of day or whatever, you're still going to achieve those effects. So making sure you have a good light, if you're gonna be running night vision, making sure you have a good laser, and obviously a good sighting system, whether you're gonna be running a dot magnifier, LPVO, scope, what have you, just make sure it's something that you train with and you know the ins and out of that piece of equipment to maximize it and make you more effective. So, you know, continuously looking to take classes, whether it's a distance carbine course or a regular carbine course or a pistol course, these are great ways to make ourselves very effective from 0 to 500. And also in your own training, having those goals in mind is a good baseline to go off of. Now, if you want to have an additional skill, say for example, running a bolt gun, knowing how to use DMR gas guns and extend that range, then that's even better. One of the things that I used to do in the military is you essentially have to be pretty well-rounded, because you would be taken and put with a unit and you have to be able to adapt to that unit's SOPs, but you should have a good baseline of the fundamentals and the foundation and the doctrine, so that way you have the ability to flex to whatever they're doing. So kind of being a jack of all trades and very well-rounded versus just being a one-trick pony, I think is going to be a lot better for the prepared citizen. So that way, no matter what group you work with, you can kind of flex and give and complement that group with your skills. Looking into that. Now, as far as your rifle setup, whenever you are running stuff, obviously having something like a suppressor or a good flash hider. In my opinion, suppressors nowadays, especially with the fact that the tax stamp is going away, especially next year, it's a survivability tool. And I'll talk about this a little bit more on the concealment side, but it's definitely something that's worth having. We're seeing suppressors more and more and more throughout the gun industry and throughout the training realm. But it's going to lower your signature depending on what type of suppressor you get, either via sound or also through flash. For me, that's what I look for in a suppressor. I'm looking for signature reduction, right? So whether it's flash signature, whether it's sound signature, that's what I'm trying to achieve. There are a lot of flow-through and printed cans right now that are very popular that do some sound reduction, but have a lot more flash. Even though you get less gas in the face, it just depends on what you're trying to achieve. What are you looking for? Like I said, whenever you're getting a suppressor, those are the two things that I look for. I don't necessarily care so much about weight. This is the Optimus 6 from Griffin Armament. It is a low back pressure can, but it has really good flash signature reduction capability, and it's pretty darn quiet. So they do have the Optimus 7 that just released, but look at getting a suppressor. It's a survivability tool at the end of the day, and I think it's going to make you more capable in the end. So the other skill that is just as important as making holes is plugging holes. So making sure that you have good medical training. Doesn't have to be super crazy, you don't have to be an EMT, but going to a Stop the Bleed class, most likely you're going to use this medical training before you ever have to use your firearms training in self-defense or other things. So having a good tourniquet, having the ability to use a tourniquet properly, knowing when to apply it, knowing what type of pressure dressing to use, whether you have limbs or if you have a cavity, what are you supposed to do for those things? So having the understanding about that, I think, is extremely important. It's going to make you a lot more capable, but I think it's a baseline skill that we should all have. If you get into a firefight, let's just say, and you're relying on that medic and you have no idea what to do medically and you get shot and he's not near you, you're going to be already in a losing battle. So a lot of the times, especially in the middle of a gunfight, you want to make sure that you have the knowledge and ability to provide self-aid care, right? So if you get shot in the leg, being able to put on your own tourniquet, being able to plug your own wound with your own dressing, if you have access to that, is going to be key. Now, there's some things that the injuries are going to be far more catastrophic where you can't deal with that, and we hope that never happens. But at the very least, being able to put on a tourniquet properly and being able to apply your own dressings if you have the ability to reach them is going to be key. Now, if you have a buddy that is injured and that medic can't get to them in time, now you can provide that self-aid buddy care to that individual and your teammate, and it's going to make your group survivability increase tenfold. A large amount of people in previous wars, from Vietnam and previous, actually died from preventable causes, right? And it was most of the time blood loss. So had tourniquets been around back then, they would have seen probably similar numbers that we saw during the GWOT. A lot of casualties were able to survive because of tourniquet training and also guys having, IFAK kits or individual first aid kit. So having a good IFAK knowing how to use it, knowing how to apply these is gonna be absolutely huge. Most likely, having one in your car is gonna be a good idea, and you may end up coming upon a car crash or an incident where you could use those skills, like I said, before you even use your firearms training skills in a self-defense situation. So definitely learn how to plug those holes. All right, something else that is going to be huge is, you know, I can make holes, I can plug holes, but do I know how to communicate with my buddies? Now, whether that's communication via hand signals, being familiar with that, or how to also use a radio and use your headset and equipment that you just bought. There's all different types of headsets out there. There's a lot of knockoff stuff. There's also a lot of stuff that works pretty decently and is gonna save a lot of money, especially if you're learning in the beginning. What I have here is the OpsCore amps. They have dual down leads, which means you can plug into 2 different push-to-talk. So I have a push-to-talk here, which is connected to my radio, and I have a shorter antenna. It's a Baofeng, nothing fancy. So I can plug into my push-to-talk, and if I wanted to attach another lead to talk on another radio, I could put another down lead on the other side of my headset. Now, what's cool about the OpsCore amps is that I can remove the down leads, and I can remove this trucker mic, or excuse me, this boom mic, if I don't want to have this stuff dangling around and I'm using it for ear pro when I'm shooting at the range. So that is something that's really nice. For a long time, I used Peltors from like Gen 2 all the way to like Gen 5. I've been using Peltors for a very long time. I think it's Gen 6 now. I'm not sure. They got new gens, but some of the newer gens have a lot of finicky issues with them. The Gen 3s and the Gen 4s were awesome. I believe the Gen 4s is the one I'm referencing, if I'm remembering correctly, but they were awesome. They're very reliable. With your headset stuff, getting essentially what you're really gonna be paying for is the surround sound hearing capability. You know, they have knockoff headsets that are on Amazon that look like Peltors that they're not, but they can work as far as radio transmission, and they can get the job done. I've seen some that are actually pretty decent for a lot less cost, but these headsets are expensive. So if you're looking to get into comms and you're looking at ways to save some money, you don't have to get a really fancy headset. They actually make trucker mics. So a trucker mic essentially is exactly how it sounds. They're very cheap. You can buy them on Amazon. They've got them for, you know, I think 10 bucks. And essentially you can plug a headphone jack into this, and you can use an earpiece, like a special agent earpiece, and you can hear the incoming traffic and you can talk in through your trucker mic. The one thing that is a negative with this is if you have a trucker mic on, it's also a speaker. So if you're trying to lower your signature, you may have to turn your radio off or almost down to the lowest volume, so that way you don't get discovered if you are trying to be sneaky throughout the woods and lower your signature. So just keep that in mind. These are very cheap. You can get them a dime a dozen. What I will say about comms, take a radio class. Right here, actually, Brush Beater is a dude out of North Carolina, and I actually have his book, The Gorilla's Guide to the Baofeng Radio. It is a cheat sheet. This reminds me of like a handbook that we would get in the military side, where if I didn't know the radio like the back of my hand, like some of these guys who are in the have a ham license and stuff like that, I need a cheat sheet. So you can get a radio cheat sheet from Brush Beater where I can kind of reference different things. If I don't remember how to program or how to talk on the radio, I can reference this book. If you want to get good at the radio, right? Make sure obviously you do things legally, but you can practice talking on a walkie-talkie with a buddy. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you're doing things legally, saying that disclaimer. But Brush Beater has amazing pamphlets for reference material if you are trying to work your comms. Remember with radio stuff, man, 2 is 1, 1 is none, because stuff happens with the radios. You got to make sure you always have spare equipment. For me, when I'm going out in the field, I'll carry spare headsets. So I'll have another headset, or if I'm running trucker mics, I'll have multiples of everything. So multiple antennas, multiple batteries, multiple headsets. Radio stuff can be finicky, so make sure you have backups. All right, so something else that is really important is basic sustainment for living. Like, do you know how to purify your water? Do you know how to catch small game if you want to snare something? There might be a time where you might not have MREs, or you run out of MREs and your mission is going on for longer. So either one, you got to be good at scavenging, right? And finding material, finding food, whether that's, you know, food storage somewhere in an old abandoned grocery store, or have the ability to snare and hunt your own game. This is going to be huge. Back then in wartime scenarios, whether it's the Roman War, the Civil War, they had rations, but they also knew how to catch their own game, and then the game that they caught would help feed the squad. You know, back during the Roman times, it was kind of interesting to see what they would carry, but part of their kit was the ability to be able to cook food over an open flame. Hopefully you don't have to do that, but you need to know how to be able to skin animals, catch your own game, you know, identify things that are going to kill you, different types of wildlife, understand how to also purify your water. Like, water is going to kill you instantly. Like, as soon as you drink dirty water or you drink water that's not filtered properly, you're essentially mission ineffective. You're pretty much a casualty. You'll be spraying trees if you catch my drift. So make sure that you are very spun up on those things, and there's tons of resources out there. You can literally download the Air Force Survival Manual or the Army Survival Manual for free online. You can use it as a reference. You can go out to the field or go out to a national park and just try this stuff out. You can do it for free. There are some survival classes that are available, but there's so many resources. There's even TV shows dedicated to survival type topics that honestly, there's really no excuse to not be spun up on how to survive in the wild if you have to. Now, something else that I think is extremely important, and we're seeing this in Ukraine because of the trench warfare and a lot of the urban warfare, but hand-to-hand type of fighting, right? So whether that's using a blade, whether that's being able to control and isolate an arm so that way you can prevent from being stabbed, whether that's from, you know, striking or getting into an arm bar or something of that nature. The big thing about hand-to-hand stuff, guys, is it's down and dirty. Like, you don't want to really be focused on like breaking a guy's arm and getting into a position. Maybe that might help for self-defense, but in a combat scenario, most likely that guy is trying to figure out how to grab a pistol out of his holster, and you need to figure out how to control those weapons or remove those weapons in hand-to-hand combat. You know, getting a good blade is important, but knowing how to use that blade, doing the 9 drill, all different types of things for making sure that you're spun up on basic hand-to-hand, so that way you have at least some sort of edge, right? You know, the probability of hand-to-hand combat is going up, especially as we've seen in Ukraine. Is probably one of the most terrifying things that you could possibly go through outside of just basic CQB. If you do CQB, most likely you'll be put into a scenario where you have hand-to-hand combat, so being able to shoot also from retention is going to be huge. When I say shoot from retention, I'm talking about drawing the pistol out and being able to engage target from really close, pulling that pistol back a little bit so they can't disengage your slide. That type of stuff is what I'm referencing. So a lot of great classes that are out there. ShivWorks is the first one that comes to mind as far as a good hand-to-hand knife type of course. But get very spun up on basic hand-to-hand type of combat stuff. It's going to, once again, it's for your survival. So it gives you a little bit of a edge, pun intended. The other thing that you should be brushed up on is basic small unit tactics. When I say small unit tactics, understanding troop movement, understanding individual movement, squad movement, what a team leader's responsibilities are, what a gunner's responsibilities are, or the point man, different basic hand signals. This is called the Ranger Handbook. You can buy it for very cheap online. It's like 12 bucks. You can download it for free if you really want to. But this should be your Bible as a basic rifleman. This is the Infantryman's Bible. They have updated versions, so they will have a date here on when this edition was published. They always have newer editions that they're refining, but this has so much knowledge in there. Everything from battle drills to even doing some comm stuff, how to cut charges onto a tree and cut trees down, you know, basic survival stuff. This book has so much reference material that you should just have it on your kit at the end of the day and have a basic understanding of SUT. You know, one of the things that we're getting ready to explore on the Barrel Hatchet channel is diving into airsoft as an FMP tool. So FMP stands for Full Mission Profile. Essentially, it is a way for the military to be able to train in a real life scenario that hits on planning, preparation, logistics, scheme of maneuver, you know, insertion methods. All of these things combined together to essentially do what's called a war game. is another word for FMP, but war games is the old way of calling it. And you get tons of feedback about all of those different categories when you do an FMP. Airsoft for the civilian side gives you that opportunity. Whether you go to a field or you have a piece of land and you got a group, use airsoft guns for force-on-force type of applications. Probably the smallest value you'll get is actually the shooting portion. The biggest value you're going to get out of that SUT through your full mission profiles is going to be your planning, your maneuver, and being able to exercise those skills as a group and an individual. So that's something that we're looking at, kind of exploring that, seeing how easy it would be to create an FMP for civilians. And so that's something that's coming up, but stay tuned for that. The next thing that I'm gonna talk about is just essentially basic gun familiarization. There's all different types of guns that are out there. You should be able to have a basic understanding of how to load, unload, make sure that those things are clear, and operate that piece of equipment, even if it's something that you don't own or use very often. So whether you're grabbing a pump shotgun or a semi-automatic shotgun, two different ways of loading those things, two different ways that they shoot, and how they cycle. So understanding the procedures for both of those, how to use a revolver versus just a semi-automatic pistol. What about a single action versus a double action, like a Beretta M9? How to decock your hammer if you have to, or a 1911 where you have that thumb safety. Procedures for different weapon systems is going to be key. You know, there are weapon systems that don't exist for civilians, at least in wide scale, like belt feds and, you know, anti-tank stuff. But if there was a huge conflict, you would essentially have to learn all that stuff on the fly. And a lot of the training that the military gives is how to operate that type of equipment and use it in a very basic method. For what is available for civilians, I think you should be familiar on how to use that stuff. If you're running a bolt gun, whether it's a hunting rifle or a buddy's sniper rifle that he uses for competition, or a DMR or a piston, or running an AK, you should have a basic understanding of how to use all those systems in a very basic manner. You don't have to be super fast, but just know how to unload, load, and operate that weapon system if you have to in a pinch. So I'm gonna be talking next about some basic pieces of equipment that the standard infantryman will get whenever he enlists in the military. No matter where he is around the world, they will give them these basic items. And these are a good roadmap for you as a prepared citizen to have these basic items as well, so that way no matter what the mission is, you're flexible and you can appropriately have the right equipment for the job. So we'll start off with the plate carrier. Plate carriers, obviously, you want to have front and back plates. I would highly recommend not using steel plates. Obviously, even if they have anti-frag, one, it's extremely heavy. Two, it's going to be extremely rigid, doesn't curve to your body. If it does curve to your body, you're probably going to be paying more. Also, even though it has anti-spall, all of that energy is going to be reverberating through the plate into your body. So getting a good ceramic plate, right? You can look for the NIJ rated ones, or you can look for ones that have been NIJ tested with the same standards. But having a good plate carrier. The one I'm wearing is the Wetworks plate carrier. It has an elastic cummerbund, so it allows me to be able to put, it has like mag pouches in the cummerbund, so it allows me to put like radios, ammo, med kit, all that type of stuff. I am running some Wiseman Guppy pouches that are made by Lunar Concepts. You can get these at Wiseman Company. And I'm running a Whiskey 7 placard. As far as the plate carrier, it doesn't really matter which ones you get, just don't go cheap. Go with a good quality manufacturer. So some that come to mind immediately. As far as nylon manufacturers, Wetworks, Cry Precision, like the JPC or the AVS. JPC, really well priced, been a plate carrier that special operations guys have been using for a long time. It's not gonna break the bank, very simple. But I would highly recommend staying away from knockoff plate carriers. Usually you're gonna see where buckles will fail and different types of areas, or the stitching is gonna fail. Can that happen to the more expensive stuff? Absolutely. But I'm just saying is don't increase the odds of that happening by going with a knockoff brand. You know, we see a lot of the knockoff brands over in Ukraine and all these different countries that are using them, but we have the ability to get high quality equipment for a decent price here. The one thing about a plate carrier that I'm looking for is one, can it be sized to me properly? Is it going to have extra stitching, or is it going to be durable, and is it going to be comfortable? If you have a plate carrier that is uncomfortable, it's going to make your life absolutely miserable. If you have a plate carrier that fails you in the middle of a fight, that's terrible as well, because you're going to carry all your stuff on it. So you want to make sure that it doesn't fall off and it's hanging on by one strap, and then you look like a gypsy camp running around in the battlefield. So make sure you have good quality stuff. The other thing is also making sure that you get the correct size. A lot of guys on the mill side, even though they're probably a large plate, get a small one so that way they can save the weight. You want to make sure that your plate carrier is going to cover your vitals, which is everything inside of this chamber up here, heart, lungs, that type of stuff. And also, if you want a little bit additional protection, getting side plates, or at least at a very minimum some soft armor. You know, soft armor is going to stop a lot of that frag. It's going to stop a lot of those pistol rounds. It's just a little bit more protection. We're seeing out in Ukraine, man, they're wearing front panels, they're wearing neck armor, soft armor on the sides, they're wearing armor everywhere because of all the artillery, the mortars, all of the battlefield weapons that are being used over there. They're trying to get some sort of protection. And even the worst one, which is drones. So, you know, if there is a full-scale conflict, you can bet your bottom dollar that that type of equipment is going to be used, and you're going to want protection from it. The one thing that is a trade-off, though, is if I have more equipment and more protection, my mobility is going to go down quite a bit. My stamina is going to go down quite a bit. So just keep that in mind. That's why a lot of the special operations guys, because they want to be fast, that's going to be their saving grace, will go really light, or as light as they can, and not have extra stuff. For guys that are running CQB all the time in urban warfare, they're still going to be stacking armor just to increase their protection. So a couple of good manufacturers, like I was saying, Spirited Systems, another good one. Wiseman Company and Lunar Concepts mix a ton of different accessories in the nylon world. Also, you got companies like Shaw Concepts or Tracer Tactical. I actually have a Shaw Concepts plate carrier here, really well built, and it has the ability to also add in soft armor. So, like I said, it needs to be comfortable. You don't have to spend a ton of money. I've got a Cry AVS, and it's heavy, right? It's great for carrying load, though. So it has that rigid structure underneath, that cummerbund structure. If I have a lot of equipment, I definitely like to use that. But whatever plate carrier you get, make sure it's good quality and make sure it's comfortable. The other thing, if you don't need to run plates and you're trying to run a little bit lighter, is having a good solid chest rig. A lot of the guys in the infantry or the Marine Corps or the Army, no matter what, a lot of militaries around the world, they give a good solid body armor and they give a chest rig, which means you cannot or don't have to run plates. Chest rig is going to do everything that your body armor will do except carry armor. There are some out there that carry armor expedient-wise, but if you're getting a chest rig, you're hoping not to get into a fight. You're trying to be sneaky, you're trying to lighten the load, or you have to walk a long distance. So getting, like I said about the body armor, getting good quality chest rig is going to be key. If you plan on laying down a lot, and you are more of a sniper role or a DMR role, then getting a split chest rig that opens in the middle is probably going to be something that you should be thinking about. What I want to look at in my chest rig, though, is having enough pouches, even with my body armor, that are general purpose enough. I don't like to have specific equipment pouches unless I know that only specific equipment will be used in there all the time. But I like to have like these guppy pouches from Wiseman Company, or big general purpose pouches that I could fit food, I could fit nods, I can fit water bottles in there, I can fit extra grenades if I had to. In a combat scenario, I could put all different types of stuff. It's not sized for a specific piece of equipment. The reason why is you know, my loadout might change. So depending on what the mission is, I might be carrying different gear from one mission to the next. So I need to make sure that it's general enough and it's general purpose enough to be able to carry no matter what, as long as the pouch is big enough, right? Big thing about the chest rigs is also maximizing space. The more stuff I add, the nicer it is, because I can carry that with me. I don't have to carry it in my bag. It's on my body, so if I have to ditch my bag, I have that life-saving equipment, whether it's ammo, sear stuff, or survival equipment, radio comms, but it's also gonna lower my mobility. So keep that in mind. Having a good solid chest rig is gonna be nice. What is popular, it used to be kind of a big deal back during the early GWAT, and now it's kind of coming back in popularity, but having a slick plate carrier, Wetworks actually offers a slick plate carrier. It has nothing on it, no molly, no nothing. I think there might be molly on the back plate bag, but it's completely slick, and you can run a chest rig over top of your plate carrier. So now you've got a plate carrier that has armor. If you don't want to run the plates, you can take that off and you can have your chest rig here. For me, I like to have them separate just because if I'm running my plate carrier, I want to run my, my loadout that way. But the good thing about running your chest rig over your plate carrier is that your equipment pouch loadout is the exact same. It doesn't change up, it's consistent. So I can see there's a lot of appeal to that. If I have to ditch my chest rig, at least I keep my armor as a base layer. So something to think about, what works for you. Think about your application and what you think is gonna make you most effective. All right, as far as helmets are concerned, there are two different types of helmets. I think that everybody should have a helmet, even if you don't have night vision, because eventually, if there is a combat scenario, night vision will be available, I'm just telling you. Or if we leave a country and leave all of our stuff behind, and then it'll definitely be available over there. But having a good helmet. Now, for a big thing for helmets for me is I hate them. I cannot stand helmets because they're so uncomfortable. It sucks carrying it on your head all the time. So for me, comfort is going to be my biggest thing. I love OpsCore. I've been running OpsCore for many, many years. Before that, I was running an ACH Mitch, and I think it was also made by Gentex. So I've been running Gentex, which is the parent company of OpsCore. I've been running their equipment for, honestly, my whole career. If you're going to get a helmet, even if you don't have night vision, I highly recommend getting a ballistic helmet. Bump helmets are good if you're going to be diving, free fall, different types of insertion methods where you're trying to go light. If you are trying to run a light chest rig and you've got a rucksack and you want to carry nods, having a bump helmet is going to lessen some of that weight on you and lessen that strain, but it's not going to protect you from any type of ordnance, right? It's just a plastic bicycle helmet. So bump helmets are nice, but they essentially are just nod holders and they hold your night vision for you and your strobes and things of that nature. So if you're going to spend your money, in my opinion, I would highly recommend getting a good ballistic helmet. Now, I've done helmet episodes in the past. I might do another updated one, but I'm still running the same exact helmet. This is an OpsCore helmet. It is fully ballistic, has good rails on the side. I'm actually running a GoPro camera on my night vision mount. I have a counterweight here, which I can remove if I'm not wearing night vision. I've got a strobe, and I also have my ear pro on here. So my headset that I carry in my bag, if I'm wearing a helmet, is now my extra headset that's my backup, right? So in the OpsCore helmet, they have really good cushioning, very, very comfortable pads. A lot of the old school pads from the ACH would just give me a migraine, and it was like it was just terrible. So for me, I like having a helmet that has really good padding. The old OpsCore padding was absolutely terrible. I hated it. It was terrible. The new OpsCore padding is amazing. If you do get a helmet, comfort needs to be key. If you want to get something that's super lightweight and very expensive, the problem with that is it's going to have not very good deformation prevention, right? So like if you get shot in the head with a pistol round, yeah, the bullet might not go through the helmet, but the deformation on the other side is enough to crack your skull and kill you. So you want to get a helmet that's going to prevent deformation, prevent penetration from the appropriate calibers. The reason why I say ballistic helmets are so important is no matter whether you're running a chest rig or a plate carrier, you have some form of protection for your head. A lot of these helmets are really good at deflecting rounds if they're not a direct shot, even with rifle. It might glance off the side and that could save your life. If you are going to be in a combat environment where there's a lot of artillery and fragmentation, this is going to help save your life. So having a good helmet is going to be key. Don't go cheap. Don't go buy a Chinese knockoff or something like that. And we're seeing some of the earlier things that are coming out of Russia that they were giving their troops. Guys could literally punch the helmet and it would collapse on itself. So don't get something that's fake. Go with a good reputable brand. OpsCore is a good one. Or if you are hurting for money and you're trying to go a little bit more economical, go with some of the Gentex helmets that are like an ACH, the Army Combat helmet, or some of the mid-cut gunfighter helmet cuts. Those are perfectly fine. You don't have to go with an OpsCore and spend all that money. You can get tons of really good helmets that are on eBay for a lot lower cost, or get them at a surplus store, and they're going to do the job just as fine. And all I would do is I would get that helmet, buy new padding. You can actually buy padding from OpsCore that's a lot more comfortable. Install that into your helmet and you're good to go. You're right as rain. Now you got ballistic protection, you can carry your night vision, you got your IR marking equipment, and you're set, right? Now, another good piece of kit to get is a good solid rucksack. This one's actually a medium rucksack that I have. It's an Alice pack. You can never go wrong with the Alice pack, man. Alice pack has been working for a long time. It's been around for, I think, since Vietnam. It does have an aluminum frame here in the back. If you go to a surplus store, you can find a good Alice pack, or you can buy an old surplus rucksack, even that has the plastic frame. But having a rucksack, when I mean rucksack, is something that can carry a lot of weight, up to 100 pounds if you have to. Having a framed bag is going to allow you to carry things for more sustainment if you have to do a multi-day mission. So don't take a backpack on a week-long mission. You want to have a rucksack, and even this one is very small. It's a medium size, but I have a couple of different rucksacks that I like to use that can help me to be sustained for a long time. The big thing about rucksacks is make sure that it has a good frame, make sure that it has a lot of easy accessible pockets that make sense. The stitching is good. It doesn't have a lot of loud buckles, and if you do have a lot of like metal buckles, just tape them up so that way they don't make noise. But getting a rucksack that is capable of carrying a lot of weight comfortably, it's gonna make your life so much easier. You know, there's a lot of really great actually civilian hiking bags, and you can just spray paint it. So just some things to think about, but what your military style rucksacks are going to give you is volume, a lot of volume. It might not be the most comfortable, but you're gonna have a lot of volume to be able to carry all kinds of stuff. The other bag that I would recommend is a 24 or 36 hour bag. This is an example of a 24-hour bag. It's essentially just a backpack. Now this one is an actually old Army one. It used to be ACU, and I actually spray painted it. It was an old surplus one that I had laying around, and nothing fancy about it. It's a backpack. I've got a ton of different backpacks, but some of the backpacks that I like the most are the ones that can carry my helmet. So essentially it's gonna be for whatever special equipment that I have, comms, water, extra batteries, but having a backpack that can also carry my helmet. If I wanna take my helmet off during the day, especially if I'm rucking through the woods, then I can attach my helmet to the back of my bag and carry it that way. So having a good solid 24-hour bag is gonna make things nice. If you have one that doesn't have a rigid frame, you can also ball it up and put it into your rucksack. So if you go and you're rucking somewhere to do your mission, you get to your destination, you can drop your ruck, you can pull out your 24-hour bag and use that for your missions when you guys are working out of your OP. So most of the time you'll see a lot of infantrymen, they get a standard backpack. They also get a little bit more of a heavier frame backpack, like a medium-sized ruck. So definitely look for a good solid bag. It's going to make you a lot more capable and allow you to carry some of those pieces of equipment a lot easier. All right, so some additional equipment. If you have the extra funds, let's just say you got all your baseline stuff and you're looking for some additional equipment, the first thing that I would look at getting is some additional concealment options. Some of that is concealing your identity. So whether you're running a balaclava, this is a Norarm net gaiter, I can put it over my face. I use these all the time. One, I'll put it over my head like a do-rag whenever I'm putting on a helmet, so that way it slicks my hair back. So when I put a helmet on, I don't have any hot spots because I have hair bunched up underneath the helmet pad. So I'll usually put this on over my head, and I also put a net gaiter around my face, so that way it can kind of cover my identity, but it also allows me, if I have a camouflage version, allows me to not have to put so much face paint all over my face. I can just put on a camouflage net gaiter, and it's a lazy way of doing it. Not the right answer probably, but getting a net gaiter to conceal your identity is gonna be good. I've got a couple different net gaiter types, one from Amazon, and I also got the 3-hole net gaiter that is a bank robber mask. So all different types that you can use to help conceal your identity if you need to. OPSEC is going to be huge in a combat environment, and even today, the OPSEC is big, so make sure you have something for that. The other concealment options that you can have is a good boonie cap. One, it keeps the sun off you, and two, you can add in scrim or vegetation tie downs to your boonie cap. So you have one that's like this, or you can have a standard one, and I just cut the edges on this military surplus one. It has vents, and then you have a band around here that allows you to put on different tie downs and attach veg to your stuff. One of the things that are more specialized is you can actually get garlands. So I have a camouflage garland here. This camouflage garland is good for wrapping around your antennas, or if you're gonna wrap it around your rifle, if you're trying to be a lot more low pro and figure out how to camouflage that equipment, getting one of those garlands is gonna be key. you can actually go to Walmart and buy a 3D camouflage blind fabric that you would put around your blind, cut it into strips, and then just use that to wrap around your rifle. So you don't have to get anything super special, just some basic ways to be able to conceal your position, conceal your equipment is gonna be big. Another good thing that I would also look at is getting a ruck cover that is a camo net that you can put over your rucksack or your bag. So if you're gonna be running a Wraith hood and you have no bag that is covered, like just say for example, your bag is, you know, straight green or black, and you don't have that covered, it's gonna stick out like a sore thumb, right? So make sure you have something that can also conceal your bag as well, because if it's on your body, it needs to be concealed. And then the base layer stuff is really important as well. So like I have, you know, a good BDU top. I also have some good combat pants. The combat pants are from Cry Precision, but you can get some good knockoff ones on Amazon. Just make sure that the fabric doesn't reflect under IR. So if you are under night vision, make sure that it doesn't look like you're wearing white snow pants. And if you have to, just give it a good dusting of spray paint. Doesn't have to be super thick, but a dusting layer, so that way it prevents that reflection, is gonna be huge. Make sure the spray paint is flat. I like the camouflage ones that you get at Walmart. It's a good bang for your buck, and it makes your equipment a lot more effective. The other thing that I'll use, one of the things that will give you away the most is gonna be your head and shoulders in an environment like this. So if you can kind of blend those things, we're seeing this is a very popular option, was primarily used by special operations guys on the Russian side and the Ukrainian side, but now we're seeing a lot of just standard infantry that are running these. But these Cobra hoods, this is the Wraith Cobra hood that allows me to break up that head and shoulders. It has a leaf cut. The base layer is also laser cut. You can add additional scrim to that, and it also fits over your plate carrier, and the hood is big enough to go over your helmet. So they do sell Cobra hoods on Amazon. They're like 45 bucks. The problem is that the hood is not big enough to fit over your helmet. It's only big enough to go over your head without anything on it. Maybe like a ball cap or something of that nature. So this is where these more expensive ones are really nice. The other thing also is the Amazon Wraith hoods, they reflect light and they shine. So you have to give it a good dusting if you're gonna use that starting out. And then you can attach scrim and vegetation and stuff to that Wraith hood as needed. Big thing I would add to that is tie down. So get paracord, little tie down so you have two long tails, so that way you can tie on vegetation to your Wraith hood or your Cobra hood, depending on which one you get. This one's kind of already done up for you, and they have different types of patterns that you can use. This is going to be absolutely huge for concealing your position and concealing you in your environment. And honestly, it's just gonna prolong your life and give you the advantage for the element of surprise. So something to think about. Now, if I was going to look at getting some additional equipment, some other special equipment, one thing that I would look into that's not gonna be, it's gonna be expensive, but not as expensive as the last one I'm gonna talk about, is getting some form of CBRN equipment. So this is a Mira safety papper. It's actually on a Shaw Concepts back panel that has straps, so I can actually put this onto my plate carrier and carry it like a backpack. And now I have a powered unit that actually can force air into my gas mask. So if you're running a gas mask, make sure you have multiple filters, but also look for a gas mask that has the ability to give you that clean air. And with your gas mask, they have different types now that allow you to shoulder the rifle a lot better. Some of their older stuff is a little bit cheaper, but this is a newer mask that they have that allows you to be able to shoulder the rifle. Depending on if you're left or right-handed, you got to make sure that you have that information correct, because the filter is going to go on one side or the other, and it can only work on one side. So make sure you get the correct size, and also for your correct handedness, left or right-handed. There is also another company called Avon. Avon has been making gas masks for a really long time. That's what primarily that is what the U.S. military uses. So if you're wanting to spend some more money and it's in your budget, you can definitely check them out. They do not have their papper available for civilians, but I believe that their NATO thread mask will work with the Mira safety papper. So if you want to have a powered unit, so you're not trying to suck through a suck a garden ball. If you're trying to breathe normally and not suck a golf ball through a garden hose, this is going to make your life so much better. I always tell people, if you put on a gas mask with a traditional filter, expect at least a decrease in performance by 15 to 20%, because you're gonna be so focused on trying to just breathe, and you're gonna breathe a lot heavier. It's just gonna make life harder for you. So just have that expectation going in. But having good CBurn equipment is gonna be important. There's a lot of biohazards out there and chemical hazards that could even happen to the civilian populace via a terror attack. So make sure you have good equipment, and make sure you test it. So now, some of my other baseline equipment that I think is gonna be important, that if you have the funds, that's kind of some extra baseline equipment, is the ability to fight at night. So here I have the PVS 14. This is a PVS 14 unit that belongs to my buddy Seth. And then these are articulating dual tubes. So if you get into night vision, make sure that you do your research. The one thing I'll say is, don't get so sucked into the weeds as far as the FOM and all this other type of stuff. A lot of guys nerd out about that stuff. A lot of guys nerd out about spending tons and tons of money on dual tubes. The biggest thing is, whatever you get, train with it. You know, I do offer night vision classes. A lot of it is performance-based stuff. You know, the night vision alpha course, you're gonna walk 2 miles. You're gonna be walking through the woods. You're gonna be busting your butt through the brush, trying to figure out how to work your night vision and also live life at the same time. So if you have the funds, get good night vision, do your research. There's a lot of resources out there as far as giving you information on what's good and what's not. But don't feel like you need to get dual tubes right off the bat. You can do a lot with the PVS 14 and training. A lot of guys that get really, really expensive tubes that don't train usually will get ran circles by guys that are running just a PVS 14 that run it all the time. So a great way to go train if you get night vision, wash the dishes in the dark, or do tasks around your house, fold laundry in your house in the dark. Your wife will make fun of you, that's okay, she does it already. So make sure you train with it, you know, work it and see what works and how you can live life and do tasks under these pieces of equipment. If you also have the additional funds, getting a thermal of some sort. This one is a thermal from DNT, it's the Hydra. It allows you to use it as a handheld. It's just how I'm using it. You can also mount it to a rifle and have it as a dedicated scope. And they also claim it can be a clip-on. I don't know how sure I am of that capability, but having a thermal is going to be huge for security. It's going to increase your awareness because now you can see heat signatures around you. These are expensive. So if you're going to be buying night vision, you know, also trying to budget this stuff in, like I get it, it's expensive. So do your research on these. A couple of companies that I can recommend just because I've run them is DNT Optics is a good one. So like I said, go to YouTube. There's different types of resources that are out there about what type of thermals that you can use. I've done a couple of videos on different thermals that I've used from DNT Optics, so go check them out. Another good one is actually the Sightmark Wraith, I believe. And that one was a decent thermal for a decent price point. That was the biggest thing, is the price point. So check all that stuff out. Make sure you guys look at different videos online before you purchase something, because there's nothing worse than buying something and find out it sucks. So guys, this is a good baseline set of equipment. I'm not going into navigational equipment and all that type of stuff and flex cuffs and you know, what mags. This is just a good basic roadmap of what you should be looking to achieve and all the accoutrement that should go with, you know, being able to navigate and survive and fight. Like, all of those things are going to be important. So, you know, start from big and work your way down. You know, if you don't have a plate carrier, get a plate carrier. If the next thing on your list is a bag, get a good bag. At least you'll be set for success by having those two things, and then start to go into looking at a chest rig and a helmet and stuff like that. I get it, it costs money and it sucks because things are expensive, but at least you have a roadmap to be able to go and get the things that you need to outfit yourself so you're an asset to your community. So hopefully you guys were able to get something out of that. I know I was very long-winded on that. If I repeated some things, I apologize, but I really wanted to kind of give you guys a basic overview of what I think would make you well-rounded as far as what you're outfitted with, and also your skills that you should be looking to set goals in. So I'm going to hand it back to Eric for an encouraging word. For today, I'm actually going to be reading you a story that took place a long time ago. Now, this is coming from christiantoday.com, is where the article is from, and it's written by Duncan Williams. Actually, it was written in May of this year. But this story actually starts about 203 AD. So this is during the time of the Roman Empire, when it was at its height. 203 years after Christ had passed. But it was about a woman named Vibia Perpetua. And so I'm going to read her story. In the year AD 203, a young woman named Vibia Perpetua stepped into a Roman arena in Carthage, North Africa. The crowd jeered, wild beasts prowled, and death was certain. Yet she did not hesitate. She was 22 years old, a noble woman, a mother, and by Roman law, a criminal. Her faith was being a Christian. Her crime was her Christian faith. Perpetua's story has endured for centuries, not only because of how she died, but because of how she lived and the words she left behind. While in prison, she kept a diary, recording the deep tensions of her final days, the pain of leaving her infant son behind, and the desperate pleas of her father to renounce her faith, and the visions that gave her strength. The Passion of Perpetua and Felicity, one of the earliest surviving texts written by a Christian woman, offers a rare and personal glimpse into the mind of a martyr. Perpetua's story is often told as one of unshakable courage, and rightly so. But courage is not the absence of struggle. In her diary, we see a woman who is fully aware of what her faith will cost her. She was not only giving up her own life, she was leaving behind a child who still needed her. Few choices could be more agonizing. Her father, a man who loved her deeply, visited her in prison, begging her to think of her family. He fell at her feet, kissing her hands, pleading with her to recant. "Daughter, have pity on my gray head. Have pity on your father. If I deserve to be called your father," he cried. How easy it would have been to say the words that would save her life, and many did. Some Christians found ways to worship in secret, avoiding the consequences of defiance. Perpetua, however, refused. She knew who she was. When asked if she was a Christian, she responded simply, "I am." That declaration meant everything. It meant she would die, but to deny it would mean something worse. From a modern perspective, martyrdom can seem like a relic of the past, something from a world vastly different from our own. Yet Perpetua's story raises questions that are as relevant now as they were in the 3rd century. What does it mean to remain faithful when the cost is high? How do we hold on to conviction when it costs us relationships, security, or even life itself? Perpetua's writings reveal that she did not see herself merely as a victim of Roman cruelty. She believed she was engaged in a spiritual battle, a struggle not against wild beasts or Roman officials, but against something deeper. In one of her visions, she saw herself transformed into a warrior, standing in an arena, not to be devoured, but to fight. "I understood that I should fight, not with beasts, but against the devil," she wrote. This is the paradox of Christian faith, that looks like defeat is often victory. Romans sought to humiliate and erase Perpetua and her companions. Instead, her witness inspired generations. The account of her execution tells us that her faith was so powerful that it moved even her captors. The prison warden who oversaw her confinement became a Christian. The hesitant Roman soldier who was ordered to kill her wavered, until Perpetua steadied his hand to guide the sword to her own throat. Few of us will face the level of persecution Perpetua did, but her story remains unsettling because it reminds us that faith is costly. It's easy to follow Christ when it requires little of us, but what about when it demands sacrifice? Perpetua's world was one where following Christ meant losing everything: family, status, and life itself. Today the challenges are different, but the call remains the same. Will we stand firm in our convictions when culture around us calls us to compromise? Will we cling to our faith when we are misunderstood, ridiculed, or rejected? Vibia Perpetua's final act in the arena, guiding the executioner's hand, was not an act of despair. It was a final declaration of trust. She had already given herself completely to Christ. Death was not the end, it was only the doorway to something greater. Her story invites us to reflect on our own faith. Are we willing to live with the same clarity, the same resolve, to say, as she did, "I am a Christian," and to mean it, whatever the cost? Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall trouble or hardship or persecution or famine or nakedness or danger or sword? No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. Romans 8:35 through 37. You know, it's interesting is now we live in a society where right is wrong and wrong is right. We all know this. Where we're called to deny our morals for society's comfort. But in the end, truth is truth. Truth is not something that is dictated by what you think or what you believe in, you know, this day versus the next. Truth is truth. It stands out. It stands firm. Truth is also harsh sometimes. And so sometimes it's important that we deliver that truth in a loving way. Not because we want to be right, but because we care about the people around us. We care about the people that God has put in our life. And you know, right now in Nigeria and all across Africa, really, and in the Middle East, Christians are being slaughtered by the hundreds, even by the thousands, being given the opportunity to be martyred for their faith. And when these Christians are being martyred, they're standing up for the thing that they believe in, their belief in Christ, that something is going to be coming that's even greater, that death is only the door. And so I ask us all that question. Do we truly believe in what we say we believe in? Do we truly take a stand for the things that we believe in our heart when things get hard? Then things will get hard. They really will. And that's when we'll see if our faith will actually stand the trials and the tests that come our way. The one thing that can be certain is that God's love is everlasting. That God's love does not care about who you are, your skin color, what your past was, what you've done previously, the infractions that you've made earlier in life, or the things that you've seen or gone through. His love is still the same. He loves you still the same, whether you're great or small, whether you're rich or poor, big or little. And so if you're going through a hard time, you guys know you can email me at team@barrelhatchet.com. I'd love to pray for you. If you're curious about who God is and experiencing that love, you can email me. But guys, I think it's so important for us to actually take a stand for what we believe in, even when it's not convenient or popular. Stand up for Christ just like Perpetua did. Be bold, live by faith, train to be the eternal asset. My name is Eric, and I'll see you on the next one.